Well, America has been flexing its muscle in the Indian Ocean well beyond the shores of Iran. A U.S. submarine sank an Iranian warship with a torpedo the other day. It's the first such sinking of an enemy ship by torpedo from a submarine since World War II. Here's Secretary of War Pete Hegseth talking about it.
Like in that war, back when we were still the War Department, we are fighting to win.
And joining me now to talk about this and a lot more is retired colonel turned author and columnist Kurt Schlichter. Kurt, firstly, thank you for coming on and thank you for your service. One thing I've been hearing from veterans since this clip particularly has emerged is how much they loved seeing it because to them it has shown America is fighting to win again. I'd love to get your thoughts on how the war is being prosecuted at the moment, but particularly on seeing something like sinking this enemy ship in international waters, which the left is now saying is somehow against international law.
Well, I would ask them, could you cite the international law that you're referring to that says the United States can't destroy enemy naval vessels on the high seas? But that would imply that I believe they were either acting in good faith and knew what they were talking about, neither of which is true. For the last 80 years, the project of much of the world has been to convince America not to use its power. America hasn't been restrained by competitors. America has been restrained by the United States accepting the so-called international legal order, the kind of globalist assumptions that basically tell America, you've got to take some blows. You can't really throw punches. Donald Trump represents the part of America that rejects that. He represents the kind of people who had to go and fight these wars with limited rules of engagement, with limited objectives that were not fought to win. You're now seeing American power unleashed. And you're not just seeing it in this war. You see it with NATO, where we essentially told them, yeah, you're going to have to carry your own weight and defend yourselves. We're not giving you free money anymore so you can import hordes of third world monsters to take over your society and fund a giant welfare state. It's not happening anymore. The same thing with American trade deals. You're seeing America exercising its power and refusing to be tied down by arbitrary and false conceptions of what it can and can't do.
Well, it's really interesting, Kurt, that you talk about projecting American power again. Donald Trump spoke a little while ago about their move to guarantee shipping, oil shipping, through the Straits of Hormuz. Let's just have a little listen to that.
My administration announced decisive action to help keep down the oil prices, including offering political risk insurance for tankers transiting into the Gulf, as you know, pretty dangerous territory. Further action to reduce pressure on oil is imminent, and the oil seems to have pretty much stabilized. We had it very low.
Kurt, it seems to me that the really important thing about this move here is that it is making the U.S. now basically the guarantor of the global oil market and giving the world a huge now stake in the success of this mission.
Well, it certainly is. The fact is, the United States is the only country that can do these things. I remember 35 years ago, I was sitting in the Persian Gulf as part of Operation Desert Storm. The United States picked up 500,000 people, all their equipment, moved it across the globe, moved it to the middle of a desert, and then attacked with it and destroyed an enemy army, the fourth largest in the world, in 100 hours. That pales in comparison to what we can do now. The simple fact is only the United States, we don't want to be the world's policeman, but there's nobody else.
Yeah, indeed, that's right. And yet, when it comes to that American power, there are plenty of people within the United States who are trying to restrain that power. And I'm talking about congressional Democrats in the Senate and in the House. Well, they've just had a massive blow where their attempts to shut down this conflict of the American mission have failed. But I think it just is a really big tell on them that essentially they're voting for the Ayatollahs over America.
Well, look, I was a freshman in high school when they first took our hostages. Then they proceeded to murder our Marines in Lebanon. They blew up our embassies. They killed and maimed hundreds of Americans in Iran through their pet militia, or in Iraq through their pet militias. They've threatened us. They've bombed our allies. And now they've got to die. We're done. It's over. This needs to finish. I don't care that leftists are upset that America is no longer going to allow itself to watch its citizens maimed and murdered by these 7th century savages. That's done. We're not playing that anymore. And if you're afraid of America, good. You should be. Don't screw with us. I guarantee you'll be fine if you don't. If you do, yeah, I'd take out a term life insurance policy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. Not sure you can get insurance at any price if you're an Ayatollah in Iran at the moment. But you know, this complete sophistry, though. This is complete sophistry on the part of not just the Democrats, but like the Washington Post, because I was reading their report on the vote, and they said they failed in their vote to end a war that Trump started without permission. Now, Kurt, you and I both know that if Trump did what the Washington Post wanted them to do, which is to go to all 535 members of Congress and say, okay, here's our plan, here's what we're going to do, Ilhan Omar, you get to vote on what we're going to do here. I mean, the thing would have leaked all over the press in 30 seconds. The great key to this whole thing is that Trump has been able to keep this in such a tight informational compartment and not be leaked by Congress and the press.
Well, that's certainly true. Look, for your Australian audience, there are legitimate arguments over the extent of presidential power to conduct warfare, and there are limits to it, and Congress should have a certain role. That being said, it doesn't have the only role. The president is the commander-in-chief. President can launch military endeavors. At some point, Congress is free to reassert its power if it chooses to. It has chosen not to, which indicates to me it supports this very necessary war. Now, you mentioned in there, somebody said, well, this war that Trump had started. Wait, time out. We didn't start this. They started it when they took our hostages. They started it when they murdered our Marines, when they killed our soldiers. We're finishing it. And again, if you don't like the new, tough, uncompromising Americans that don't let you hide in your little safe havens and don't let a bunch of Davos creeps tell us, oh no, it's against the rules to win. Well, too bad. Call the international police.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Kurt Schlichter. Always great to speak with you. Love having you here on the U.S. Report. We'll catch up soon.
Thanks for having me.